Let's talk about when you were in Cincinnati.
Yes.
The 70s, big Red Machine. You didn't follow the Reds? Were you still a
sure,
Yankee
I followed
fan?
the Reds, and frankly, I was friends with, and still am, with a
Sure.
number of the players from the big Red Machine, Johnny Bench and Pete Rose, and I mean, some people think I would disagree, but, well, I wouldn't disagree with this. The 76 Reds were among the top 5 teams in baseball history. And they were awesome. And, you know, if Pete hadn't gotten into his trouble, they'd have 4 Hall of Famers out of that lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And
does he deserve to be in the Hall?
oh, no question. Yeah, I mean, because of what he did on the field.
Right.
So, of course, he belongs in the Hall. But, you know, it's political and...
Well, explain to me how you're in politics in Cincinnati and you're rooting for the Yankees.
Well, I explained...
How does that work?
Well, I explained to the people in a press conference that I've never rooted against the Reds on city time. So no tax dollars were used on mine.
Really?
And I never used any money I was paid by the city in my salary as mayor to buy a Yankee paraphernalia.
Really?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I kept my ethical standards. But you know, as I explained, when you root for who you know, when the Yankees weren't playing the Reds, I was always rooting for the Reds, of course, and I would go to tons of their games. I mean, I love, you know, they were a great team. Those were great years.
What was that like watching Pete Rose back in the day? I mean, in his prime.
Well, it was phenomenal because Pete Rose, what you saw was what you got. I mean, he put on, there were no airs about Pete Rose. He was totally authentic. And he was a neighborhood kid who had the same friends when he was famous as he did when he was a kid growing up in Western Hills. And I really admired that about him. You know, he was hi to everybody. Very personable, not at all a snob, nothing snobbish about him. He never let it get to his head. He was Pete Rose and he loved playing baseball and that's what he loved to do. And he played, well, you know, he ran out everything, Charlie Hustle. And he was, you know, he was almost obsessed about the competitive nature of it. It's also the obsession probably that got him into trouble with the gambling.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just obsessed about doing his beating you at anything.
Right.
And it was great to see him because he was. There are very few stories in American sports where someone from being totally unknown, in other words, not from a famous family, a wealthy family, nothing,
mm-hmm.
hits the pinnacle of their career, of their profession, and does it all in one town. So everyone who grew up with him saw him be the kid in the class,
right,
to become the greatest, you know, the most prolific hitter in the history of baseball. And there's no comparable. You know, Tiger Woods is obviously the most phenomenal golfer, but it's not like the people from his hometown. He stayed there his whole life and did everything he did in his hometown.
Sure.
In baseball, Pete went to Western Hills High School. He was a Cincinnatian from birth, and he hit, you know, all his greatness came in Cincinnati, and including breaking the record. And that, so the whole town, it's hard to describe, those, you know, those of us who are Cincinnatians, how we felt about one of our own
mm-hmm.
reaching the top, seeing him, you know, and seeing him crying there at first base after he broke Cobb's record, because everybody felt it. It was like, wow, this is like a guy, one of your family, you know, so it wasn't like, well, he went away to make it big. No, he made it big in his hometown. And that was a unique story in sports. And I can't think of a comp. I mean, Mickey Mantle was Mr. Baseball in New York, but he was from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Joe DiMaggio was from San Francisco. You know, Pete Rose was West Side Cincinnati from the day he was born to the day he hit 41.92.